All right, hello and welcome back to the next video. In the last video, we spent some time adding some new fields to the database, and then we got a select input working on the front end. To start this video, we're just going to clean up our code a little bit, as I said we would, and then we'll dive into improving our form and getting some more of that functionality in the front end. So to start, just before I started recording, in your schools table, I got rid of these actions because it was just kind of noise that we're not using at all, and I turned it into just a blank something text, and then I turned this into a paragraph as well. So with your app running, space is defined. Okay, I didn't test it before I started recording. So with your app running, if you go back to schools, refresh. So now these are no longer links. It just looks a little bit better because they were links to nothing and they were a bunch of buttons we weren't using. But here we are. So continuing on code cleanup. One thing is we've got a few components like this defined in a few places that are reusable components. So like this one, let's copy that. I'd say it's in the library. This is sort of like a just got a table called, or a folder called tables, and then actually let's just create a file called, we don't need to over-optimize or pre-optimize. Create a file called tables. Let's get that import in here. Let's export that. All right, so now we'll just put like our table components in here. And now we should be able to import table header from, maybe it'll complete for me, table header from tables. There we are. And now we can just remove that and reuse that in other places. Okay. Another thing I want to do is we've got a type here, school, and I think we redefine it here. So we want to start moving our types into like a place where we can store all our types. I was actually curious where to store types. There's some sort of organization pattern we should follow. Okay, seems sort of up to the user. Okay, yeah. So they're saying createTypes.ts file, but if it's only used in a few places, then just keep it local to where it's being used. For school, we'll probably have schools all over the place at some point, so we're going to move that into the types folder. And we can delete this components folder. We're not going to have a root components folder. So delete that, types.ts. Let's get the school type in there. What is it saying? Okay, we just need to export it. So now we can delete that. And we can import school from types. There we are. We can go to the school table as well and import that type there. Awesome. Oh, it reorganizes the imports. That's really nice. Didn't realize the launcher was doing that. So we've got our one type there. I think that's our only one. I know we also have an no, that's not it. I could have sworn, where was that? I could have sworn we did something else. What were we doing? Oh, it's in the page template. Here we have an interface. Okay. Which is fine because that is. Okay, this one should probably stay here because it's only going to get used here for now. So we'll leave that there. We just search our code for interface space. We have the one in basic props. We have the one, anyone that's props is fine. And then we just have the one in there. And then if we search for type space, is it, Oh, typespace, not types. So we've got this menu item that we were just talking about, and this one's just imported. Okay, we're fine. So we'll start that. We've got that types file started, which is perfect. Like that. All right. Let's see if there's organization we want to do in the back end as well at the same time. Migrations are fine. School serializer has nothing on it. Right here, let's actually, this is sort of adding functionality, it's not cleanup, but let's add our new fields to the serializer. So we have name, category, and district. The serializer determines how our data looks when we get it from the backend and also how we send it. So let's add those fields. And Django has a default because this is a mono serializer. I think district's going to be the ID of the district, and category will just be the value because it's a choice field. We can expand upon that later. I think that's probably good for now. If we wanted, we could also add district to our admin panel. Register district. Okay, see if everything's still running. Looks like it is. Perfect. One last thing I want to do with props is, if we go back to the front end, jumping around a little bit, is these like interface props, these props definitions. I think there's a package that like makes that easier to do or like cleaner. React props definition. Maybe a page props. Prop types. I forget, like a okay, maybe let's not add anything special until we need it. Yeah, let's just leave it. Okay, so next thing, if we go to our create school form, we have our name and we have gender dropdown. Let's turn this gender dropdown into a category of school dropdown and just make this form a little bit nicer overall. But we're going to start with the school dropdown. So last video, we added an endpoint. If we go to localhost /8000/API/constants without the appending slash, we get our constants that we can use in dropdowns. We want to make this request on the front end, and we want to store those values so that they can be used all throughout the app because this object is going to have things just for everywhere. And that request should run like immediately because we might need it to run the app at all. And it's a really fast request. It's not computing any data. It's just like grabbing some constants and serializing them. So I'm actually going to, actually, before we start, when we make this request, it should be the first thing we do because the app might need the constants to run. And we're also going to store them in Redux. And at some point, I'm going to do a video just on like state management. But Redux essentially allows you to have a global state where you can just like pull from it when you need things, which is perfect for something like constants where you're pulling from them from all sorts of components when you need it. So let's get Redux set up before anything, and then we can see how it's used. So August 2022, quick setup. Okay, let's install it. Create a stored.js file in our app. They're doing source app store. I'm not going to create the app folder yet. I'm just going to create the store. file. Okay, and then this is getting imported into our index, and in the provider, we're passing in a store. So in here, oops, importing some things. There's the route provider. I think this goes around everything, but we'll find out soon enough. You can see our import's wrong here too. We're just importing straight from store. Okay, so no errors. That doesn't mean it's not or doesn't mean it's working, but okay, now we're getting into the functionality. So stop there. Jump to this TypeScript quick start. Make sure we're not missing anything for TypeScript. Okay, we can actually go pretty far without getting into the TypeScript stuff, it looks like. So back to the quick start. All right, let's wait, where are they putting that? They're putting that source features counter. I don't really like. I don't know why they put it in that folder. I'm gonna disagree with them or just do something else for now. Um, First off, I am gonna create a store folder, so I'm sorry for that. We're gonna create an index.ts file where that original code is gonna be, and then we're gonna create a what kind of slice are we doing here? A counter slice. Let's create a, what are we doing? Constants. That's like what we're constant slice.ts. So we'll turn this into our functionality soon enough. Let's grab all this stuff here, put in that index, delete this. And then in our index, we want to import from store index. Okay. And then we can import that slice reducer, I guess is what they're calling it, into here. Constant, wait, what do they call it? They call it a reducer, yeah. Constant reducer. And we're just importing that from, oops, from constant slice. And I think are they just giving it the same name? Oh, counter. Oh, okay. So constants get their value from the constant reducer. Okay. Now let's change the action. So the way this works is, and like you should do some research because Redux can be confusing, is you call methods, which are these actions which are imported from here. So we're calling these from wherever we want. One of the actions we're going to call is get constants. And what that does is it runs something and then it sets the value of the state, which is like, it's pretty much an assignment, but a little bit fancier. And then throughout the code, you can just like grab the state and say, get me the constant state. So rather than counter, we're doing constant. Name constants. Constants. Let's do singular. And the initial value, we're going to have, I was going to try nothing. I'm not sure this is going to work. And we're going to delete all these actions. And the only action we're going to have is fetch constants, which is going to change her exports. And I'm writing a lot of code without testing. Not generally good practice, but I am feeling confident, which is probably a mistake. Yeah, I know I'm going to run into an issue like pretty quick too. Let's see if they have a nice synchronous example of an action. Okay. Oh, let's just try and write it, and we'll see if we run into an error. So this has to be an asynchronous method. And we're gonna do a try catch where we're going to make a request. So let's grab an example in the schools place. We make a request like this. Like this. We need the schools API. Bad name for a plugin. Well, we're going to change our plugin name. That's fine. Set schools doesn't exist. Fair enough. But state dot value, is it value? Let's look at the example again. Okay, values inside the state. I think state can just equal the response.data. If it fails, it just gets set to, well, we just do nothing, except probably log an error later on. And no error so far. So now we have our action, and let's, probably gonna run into error soon, but let's just keep going. Okay, not sure if this is best practice. We might change it, but oh no, we absolutely, okay. We're gonna create our own provider, so that's actually a good, let's create a providers folder. A provider is sort of like, well, you'll find like React projects or generally some front-end projects, they'll be like 16 or 8 or whatever containers wrapping everything, and each one is just like a component rendering in a component, and each one exists just to make like one call and provide that thing before the next component renders. So I think, let's put it in here. We're going to create a, let's create the file first. We're going to create a base data provider, and base data is just going to be defined as things that we need to like run the app. So import React base data provider equals all this fun stuff. It's going to return a div with the children. Oh, what am I doing? And then it's gonna, that's gonna be the default export. Children is missing in props validation. We have an example of that. Let's not think too hard. Or do we not? No, it's in library, page templates. Here we are. And I'm actually going to go to our types folder, and this is going to be our like generic provider props. We'll export that. And now we can go, let's use it here as well. Import, thank you for doing the work for me. Provider props, lost it. Provider props. And we can put that here instead. Well, actually, yeah, no, that's fine. This likely isn't going to change. That template can just use provider props, because likely the template isn't actually going to get props that often, like other props. but we can change it when we need to. And let's take these provider props and let's take them to whatever we were doing, our base data provider. And that's going to be, let's see, what was the type on this? It returns a React functional component with the provider props as the type. What am I messing up here? Oh, I named this a JavaScript file. There we go. All right, so like now all we've done here, if we go back here, oh sorry, let's import our base data provider. So all we've done here is like this essentially returns a div and then returns its children. So this is right now, this is all it is a div, except what we're going to do is when this component renders, which is back here, we are going to fetch our constants and store them in the store. So here we'll have a little use effect. And if we look for our schools example, I'm always pulling from other places in the code because I don't want to try and rewrite things. And generally, if you're pulling from other places in the code, you're keeping it consistent. Even if it's consistently bad, consistent is sometimes better than inconsistently. And consistently bad is sometimes better than inconsistent. So you can pretty safely pull from other places. But all we're going to do is we're going to request the constants, and we are going to call that. And then instead of set schools, oh, actually, what am I doing? What am I doing? We already have this request in our Redux action. So we just need to look up how we dispatch that action, which is the term that's likely going to get used. So you can see here, useDispatch. useDispatch is how you call actions. Actions being if we go back to our store, where's our store? Dispatch fetch constants is an action. You see slice actions. The way to call these is using useDispatch. I'm lost again. Here we go. So at the top of this, we're going to do a little bit of that. And then in here, we're just going to dispatch. We need to import our action as well. Fetch constants from the constant slice. We're going to dispatch that. And useSelector is how you get data from the store. We're not doing that yet. But let's see if that request runs. And let's see if any of the code runs because we've been doing stuff. All right, it looks like there's already an error. We're going to try and just restart the front end and see what happens. Cannot find marginal style components. Okay, let's try and run to the app sometimes. Oh no, lots of that. Pretty sure we installed styled components a while ago. Where's that error? Can't resolve it in library, source library. Okay, and we were just using that in our school table, right? Weird, did I like uninstall it somehow? Okay, apparently I just lost it. If you're running into that, hopefully you're not. npm install. Let's just look for it. Documentation, blah, blah, blah. Pretty sure I did this before. npm install. I definitely just copied a blank space and then pasted it again. Okay, hopefully that fixes it. I don't know how that happened. npm start. Okay, let's Google this and see if other people are running into it. Is the package.json updated? It is. All right, maybe if we try closing our editor real quick before we Google. Okay, nope, I just saw it pop up. Does it need a type? Does it have a type declaration? Type style components. Let's or we just need the types instead. It's pretty common. Type style components, awesome. And it looks like we might be good. Do a little refresh. It's trying. Awesome. All right, now let's see if anything worked. So let's close that for now. So the idea is whenever we run refresh, a constants request is being made. It's not being made. Let's look into it. So if we go to our provider, let's just try a console login here. Hi, and if I'm not wrong, I think that actually needs brackets as well. Otherwise, you're just like dispatching a function, but you're not calling it, I think. So try refresh. Check our console log. Okay, we got the hi. Okay, a non-serializable value is detected in the state, blah, 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 blah. So I think the request was actually made. Okay, request wasn't made, but this is the issue I expected to run into. So if we go back to our store, so when you have asynchronous methods, like the example it had wasn't using asynchronous methods. When you have asynchronous ones, I think, I'm just gonna Google it, Typescript. Oh, I don't need Typescript. AsyncThunk. I think this is what we want to use. A function that accepts a Redux action type string and a callback function that returns a promise, blah, 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 blah. So this will allow us to do is allow us to make asynchronous actions, and you can also have different states based off the success, failure, pending, etc. of that action. So like if the constants are loading or pending or succeeded or failed, you can do different things in the app. So like if they failed, we could be like, hey, like something's really messed up, let's not load the app. So let's do that. Ow, I just really hurt my toe. So what we're going to do is this constant slice, great example for simple Redux, but you don't need any of it right now. So just copy that example. Okay. Actually, let's not be so hasty. Let's copy it below. Let's grab our try catch on the schools, and let's slowly move it in here. So we have our schools API. Constants. I think this is just the name of it. I don't think this actually like means too much. This is the part that matters. Also, I still had schools. That's probably why I had schools, so we weren't seeing the constants request because I was actually requesting schools. It says no parameter. Let's just call it that. Don't need that. Constant state has the entities. and the loading state. And we're going to call this the constant slice. And the constant slice. Where's it getting fetched user by ID? Oh. So createAsyncThunk. When the thunk is fulfilled, set the state, initial state, constant. It's going to be an object. It's going to be an object, not an array. Constant state. Constant state. Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll dispatch that later. Export deep. Constant slice. All right, let's get rid of all this. We do need the school API. Okay, get rid of the rest of that. Oh, I click save and it's kind of shuffled around. Just drop that part. Okay. We're not going to dispatch it in here, so leave that for now. Necessities doesn't exist, so it's trying to like push things onto something that doesn't exist. Do that. That got renamed. And I think when you're doing this, you just export that, right? Multiple name of fetch constants. Yeah, we're not getting it from, are we? Do you export it like that? Okay, let's look at the example real quick. Oh, they don't even, okay, they don't even export it in their example. And I think our linter added stuff. So you got to be careful of that when you're using autosave linters because it can just really make things confusing. I'm pretty sure I can do export there and then just not export the action there. Okay, so now we have an asynchronous store action that we can call. If we go back to our index file and just go to our base data provider, which is where we're going to call that, and we import fetch constants. We're running into an issue. Okay, argument of type async thunk action is not assignable to parameter of type any action. Okay, let's just Google that one. Not even sure where to begin with that. App dispatch type. Oh, here we get into TypeScript Redux, yeah. Okay. That was in the store, yeah. All right, so we're getting that from the TypeScript Redux documentation. We also need to export some types from here. I guess they're the same const, yeah, export const. And now if we take app dispatch and we import it here, import app dispatch from store, and use that here, we get, this is we're gonna say like it's going to finish, or it's not gonna return anything explicitly. We've done that before. See what happens. I'm expecting it not to work, but okay, there we go. Was default import as store is not found in store.index. Oh, export default const. Default const store equals this. Export default. So store has to be the default. Export, that makes sense. Okay, refresh. And we get a 404, which is fine. We're making the request. And it's 404 because we don't have like a trailing constant on there. So we just go back to our backend. Blah, 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 blah. I think we just need to put a slash there. Refresh. 200 response. High school categories. Awesome. So now we can use those options in our dropdown, in our select, in our form. But I'm going to stop there. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll get those constants in this dropdown and send them back to the backend to be saved. And that's going to fail because we're also going to need districts. So in the next video, we'll get districts as well. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.